Hello, we are back. So we're going to hear from, I think, mainly Dominik, and then Oliver's going to chime in at the end. Yes? At the beginning? At the beginning. Okay. SIPFront are a gold sponsor of ours. They are the only gold sponsor of ours. They support us. They've supported us multiple years now, and we love them. So they do a lot of SIP testing, but they're starting to do other testing as well. But I will let them talk about this stuff. So I'm going to hand you over to Oliver and Dominik.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan, for organizing that. It's a fantastic event. I love the frame. Thanks again also for Cloudflare and granting us access to their lovely offices. It's a very inspiring place. I love it. I love it. First time here in San Francisco, so everything was perfect until this moment, of course. So happy to talk about what we're doing. So first of all, can everybody hear me? That's one of the most awkward questions you could ask in 2024. Walking through San Francisco, I see a lot of Waymo cars without any drivers doing that, and we still need to ask, do you hear me when we're starting in a video conferencing? That's a little strange. About me, when I'm not doing my very professional sales thingies, I love challenging myself going uphill in the mountains, either by feet or by bike, preferably by bike because it's going much faster. Also descents are much faster. I'm 45, living in Vienna, Austria, in telco business since 1999, in software working for and with Andreas since 2013, also working with Dominik since that point of time. And now I would like to understand what you are doing. So just splitting you in two groups, the commercial and the technical group. Please raise your arms and hands when you're on the technical end or on a technical side. Great. And please raise your arms and hands if you're on the commercial side or more attached to the commercial side. So perfect, 100% technicians here, great. I'm the only non-technician, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Rather than talking about our services and what we're doing, and it's kind of obvious that we're running automated application tests, we're doing end-to-end testing, we're running load testing with tens of thousands of RTP and signaling things, we're doing client testing. This is something that Dominik talks about a little later. I would like to cover 3 customer cases where we as SIPFront bring a lot of benefits. And seeing the first one, it's a company doing or is professionalized in selling transit, so connecting country A to country B, selling voice minutes there. And of course, they need to maintain a very good service quality in order to keep their customers and in order to gain new customers, of course. And that means that they need to test the quality and the quality of the calls. And how are they doing it in 2024? They hired a guy, and this guy is doing nothing but 8 hours of calling random numbers in 140 destinations, listening to what party B is saying, and then he's doing individual call quality rating. I keep it as it is. I think it could be done much more efficient here. Second one, I stumbled over a job ad on LinkedIn last week from a guy, a founder and a CEO of a company I know for a very long time in Europe. And they're looking for a web software tester. And I was looking through a job ad, and it was written, developing of automated tests, number 1. Number 2, documentation of test procedures and results. And I immediately took my phone, called this guy and said, I think I know a company who could automate that. Does it really make sense to hire someone, look for it, do some job interviews, onboard him, let him develop something that's already there? We could do that in no time for you. And with the big benefit of we're doing it 24/7, 365 days a year without any vacations, sick leaves, any personal issues, nothing. We're doing the job for you on your behalf, fully automated. Guess what? We're talking about that. And we're hopefully working together with this company very soon. Third company, they're in telco business. They're offering white label solutions to resellers, and then they provide features and functionalities on that, web calls, video calls, and whatsoever. And they are doing some software development as well, and they are in the middle of the third, or they had been in the middle of the third attempt of building something on their own based on CP and a couple of other tools. I approached them, I contacted them, and guided them through our process, and within 2 weeks of time they said, oh, it's beautiful what you built. It's there what we always wanted to have. Is there any reason why we shouldn't work together? And guess what? They signed three months ago, and we have now automated 70 tests for their CI/CD pipe. So this is something that they're doing on a bi-weekly basis, 2 times a week, 70 tests, CI/CD integration fully there, and everything works automated and works as it should be. And there is no other fourth or fifth attempt in setting up it on their own. Now again, questioning you, because I anticipate that all of you are doing tests, hopefully, else the poll will be very boring. Who is doing it manually until now? Please raise the arms. Okay. Semi-manual. Who is relying on automated testing, either on a professional commercial solution or a homegrown or home-built, homemade solution? It's pretty the same amount of guys. And who plans to hire someone who should build his automated testing? Please remember, if you raise your arm right now, we definitely need to talk a little later on. So anyways, is there anybody who is planning to hire someone for that? No. Of course, good. Perfect. So let me hand over to Dominik now. He will show you how we're doing automated WebRTC tests. And thanks a lot for your attention.
I'm Dominik Ridjic. I'm in the industry, in the telecommunication industry for the last 16 years, mostly doing mobile applications, but also web applications. And the technologies I've been using is WebRTC and SIP. And doing this as employed, but also 10 years as a consultant. And now I'm working with SIPfront on this project, and I'm mostly working on testing WebRTC applications and mobile applications with the framework. So let's start directly into the graphs or into the display. Here you see how our setup is for our browser tests. Basically, the SIPfront app, that's the front end that you see of the application when you use our service, is starting up a Dockerized agent, a Dockerized process that we call an agent, that itself starts up for browser CodeCept.js. And CodeCept.js has the benefit that it can run not only with Selenium, which we use for browser testing, WebRTC browser tests, but it also can, with the same test script, it can also drive Appium, which we also use to drive mobile applications for Android and iOS. And there you can connect to a multitude of different services like Lambda Test, Browser Stack, and many others, and which provide device farms where you can select all kinds of devices that you want to test, all kinds of iOS versions that you want to test, and even things that you generally that are generally hard to test. For example, if you wanted to say, I want to test a Samsung browser on a Samsung Galaxy S22 or something like this, that would be achievable with this kind of setup. And what we do here for the browser test, the customer writes basically a simple test script that looks like a Selenium test script, and this is sent into a device cloud of your choice. We are using Browser Stack, but you can use other ones as well. And these are then connecting to the service of the customer, the WebRTC app that the customer is using, and are testing a call, a real call that is being done. Into this thing, we also inject our Call Analytics SDK, which extracts the RTCP stats that we want to display and collect and display later on, and also inject media. So we want to be able to inject audio and video streams into the WebRTC call to simulate audio and video. And all of this is then, of course, via MQTT collected with our persistor, which is connected to several different databases, where you can choose a different one if you want to implement something like this. But this is like the basic setup. And what you will see if we switch to the mobile test setup, they look very similar, the setup. Okay. It looks very similar. The setup is basically still using CodeCept.js, only now it is driving with the same kind of script an Appium test, Appium, and which is driving Android and iOS apps. And the only bigger difference here is that the customer, if he wants to extract the RTCP test and media injection, he has to implement our SDK himself, or we help him implement it, because you cannot monkey patch your libraries into a live app on mobile devices. And for SIP, still pretty much the same, with the thing is we are using bare zip or CP depending on the use case. For bare zip, this is the use case where we want to have an agent that calls just a zip call, and via socket commands, we are just telling it to hold the call, stop the call, transfer the call, and so on for single calls. And if you want to do a test where we want to scale it and to test like hundreds of thousands of calls, we are using the same setup, only in this case we are switching to CP. And we're using this in that case. And in front of that is Camalio and RTP engine. And both are used to modify the zip traffic, which is plain text. So in between here and here, we're sending plain zip, and here also RTP. And RTP engine then modifies it however we like it, and Camalio as well. So we can have then TTLS, SRTP, you can have ZRTP, you can have whatever you want. And for this job, Camalio and RTP engine are really great. And for continuous integration, you can just basically imagine any kind of these other setups for Appium, for Selenium, for BearZip. We also provide simple GitHub actions. So once you're, for example, a developer wants to merge wants to create a pull request for some changes he has made in his feature branch, it can automatically run a bunch of calls. And you can then say, okay, my setup is I want to do a call transfer from my WebRTC app from one zip destination to another zip destination, and I want to see that it works. And this is really important because you often implement a simple, small feature, and most developers won't be able or don't have the time to test every possible scenario that you can test. And this helps you to keep track of that and prevent most of the regressions that are possible. So, and the anatomy now. The tools we're using are all open source tools that most of you might know. We are using CP, we're using BearZip for zip calls, we're using CodeCept for, like I said, for driving Appium and Selenium, RTP engine and Camalio for creating our own little session border controller, and asterisks we are also using for fax. We're also supporting fax testing as well. And you can, in these little Docker agents, you can have any kind of configuration, any number of them, and create any kind of complex scenario that you want to test. So you can have like 2 WebRTC agents and 3 zip agents, and you can even have a Twilio account, a Twilio zip account being connected there and do calls into the PSTN network. So if that's something that you want to test. So now it's time for a little demo, and I hope I can make this happen. I would just basically show you how it looks like, the setup. What kind of data we extract and how it looks like. Here is let's go here. Here's a sample test that we run today. We have like tests that are running continuously to also test our own platform. And so we're doing like thousands of test calls every day. And this is one of them, and it is a WebRTC test. And you see here a little test script. It's not too big. You log in, you give your credentials, you input your number, and you request an incoming call, and that's it. And then wait for a specific amount of time, 33 seconds in that case, and end the call. And here you get a bunch of states from both sides. So you have a create, you have a call established, RTP established, call closed, and so on. Below, you also see a MOS calculation, which is, we are using here viscall for this thing, the viscall model. And it rates between 1 and 5 the audio quality of the audio that is recorded. And this is pretty okay, so everything above 4 is okay and well understandable. And beside it, you also have a transcription. This is both the same because it is audio that we are injecting into the WebRTC app on both ends. And that way you can also verify, is it actually the audio quality good enough or not, because if this fails the transcription, then you know, okay, it's not understandable, not even to Amazon it is understandable what was sent there. And below, you see then a bunch of media statistics that we display in graphs for the customer to see, and a zip ladder, of course, where you see the individual, for example, here the invite, and you can compare different ones. And at the bottom, yeah, these are the raw zip traces, and below you see, you see the audio recordings, which maybe you can hear if I play it. Let's see. No, you cannot hear it. But believe me, there's an audio. And in both cases, it is for both sides a playback of an audio file and a recording. So you cross-compare them. What is played on side E and what is recorded on side B, and vice versa, of course. And from Browser Stack itself, which is the service that we are using, I hope this is here. You, of course, have a recording of the video, which you might know how it looks like. Let's go forward, yeah, a login and so on. And you have, of course, network logs, so you can see every network request that has been made. You can see the payload, the response. You can see also the console logs, yeah, basic stuff. And what is also interesting when you go over a long time for this particular test, you can see then for the last months a graph, how did it develop? For example, you can say, what interests me is if we change something on the infrastructure, how does it affect the jitter in the last months? And you would be able to see this because this is a collection of a long time. Yeah. Okay, and let's go back. Okay. Sorry, one moment. Okay. So how does it look like a little bit broken down? The agent, like I said, for WebRTC is starting up Concept.js, and which is starting then Selenium and orchestrating it. And Concept.js is also injecting via a modification of us the SDK to extract the data, and Selenium is sending a test script in there. And the device farm is then connecting to the service that you want to test in your case. Then for the mobile app, it's again the same. It's again only Appium is being used, and the device farm is again connecting to the service. And for zip, for BearZip and ZipP, we are sending zip in UDP and IPv4 to Camalio, and RTP also in IPv4 to RTP engine, and those are then modifying it to any kind of thing that you want to have. So if you want to have it encrypted in some form, or if you want to have it IPv6, this can be achieved then in this case. And yeah. And once you have that kind of setup where you can start all kinds of agents that can do all kinds of calls, you realize that you have not that many limits. You can do all kinds of very exotic tests that you usually wouldn't be able to do, or which would take a lot of time for you to implement yourself. We ourselves needed 4 years to get to this point, to being able to reliably test all of these things, WebRTC, zip, and PSTN, and fax, and so on, and mix them all together and to have it work correctly. And also one big challenge there, of course, is also that the reliability, that you don't swamp the customer with unnecessary error messages, because of course calls or WebRTC apps can fail for many reasons, and that's why we for ourselves we've implemented something, a return mechanism that we are using, where if one test fails, we try it up to 3 times, and only then we start to notify the customer. But the customer, of course, can modify it himself if he wants to get every kind of notification. Yeah. So the key takeaways here are that you should test early and often. So that means if you can, via GitHub Actions, do it immediately once you create your pull request to test it, all kinds of calls that you want to test via hook. The other thing is, of course, to keep the usage barrier as low as possible. So we have abstracted away the complications of CP, for example, which has very complicated configuration, to something much simpler, which many of our customers who are not even necessarily technicians can use to create a simple test, a simple call test. And the last thing, of course, is to make it reliable as possible. So not swamp the customer with tons of error messages, but collect it, and once you've verified it sufficiently with retries that it really does not work, then only notify him. So, and I want to thank you for this talk. So if you want to have any kind of more deeper information on this subject, or want to get in touch with us, you can talk with me or with Oliver. We are both here the whole day, and you see our email addresses here. Thank you.